You know that feeling when you discover your entire family has been lying to you for months? When you realize that people you trusted most were plotting against you while you were grieving? Well, I found out the hard way. But I also found something they didn't know existed. Hey everyone, if you're new here, I share stories about family drama and betrayal, the kind of stuff that happens behind closed doors. Hit that subscribe button and ring the notification bell, because today's story, it's going to leave you speechless. Trust me on this one.
My name is Sarah, and this story starts about 8 months ago when my mom, Linda, was diagnosed with pancreatic cancer, stage 3. The doctors gave her maybe 6 months if she was lucky. I'll never forget that phone call. I was in my apartment in Chicago, just finishing up some work emails when my phone rang. It was my older brother, David, and his voice was shaking. "Sarah, you need to come home. It's about Mom." I dropped everything, literally left my laptop open, grabbed my keys, and drove the 4 hours back to our hometown of Cedar Rapids. The whole drive, I kept thinking about how Mom had been complaining about stomach pains for weeks, how she'd been losing weight, how tired she seemed during our last video call. When I got to the hospital, she looked so small in that bed. My mom, who had always been this force of nature, running the local bakery, volunteering at church, organizing neighborhood block parties, she looked fragile for the first time in my life. David was there with his wife Jennifer, and so was my younger sister Emma. We all just stood around her bed, not knowing what to say. "Don't look at me like I'm already dead," Mom said, trying to joke, but I could see the fear in her eyes. "We're gonna fight this thing." And fight she did. For the next 3 months, she went through chemo, radiation, the whole 9 yards. I took a leave of absence from my marketing job and moved back home to help take care of her. Emma, who was still in college, would come home every weekend. David, being the oldest and having the most stable job at the bank, handled most of the medical appointments and insurance paperwork. During those months, Mom and I became closer than we'd ever been. We'd sit on the porch swing in the evenings, and she'd tell me stories about her childhood, about meeting my dad, about things she'd never shared before. "You know, Sarah," she said one evening, "I've been thinking about what happens after. I want to make sure you kids are taken care of." I didn't want to talk about it, but she insisted. She told me she'd been meeting with her lawyer, Mr. Henderson, updating her will. She said she wanted to be fair to all of us, but she also wanted to make sure the family bakery, the one she'd built from nothing over 20 years, would stay in the family. She mentioned, "I've been watching you kids. David's got his career at the bank, Emma's got her whole life ahead of her. But you, Sarah, you've got your dad's entrepreneurial spirit. You understand what that bakery means." I thought she was just being sentimental. I had no idea she was already planning to leave me the bakery. By month 4, the treatments weren't working as well as the doctors had hoped. Mom's oncologist, Dr. Martinez, recommended a risky surgery called a Whipple procedure. It was her best shot at buying more time, but it came with serious risks. "The recovery is going to be brutal," Dr. Martinez explained to all of us in his office, "and there's no guarantee it'll work." But without it, he didn't need to finish that sentence. Mom was scared. I could tell, even though she was trying to be brave for us. The night before the surgery, she asked me to stay with her at the hospital. "She need to tell you something," she said around midnight. We were both lying in the dark, me in the uncomfortable recliner chair, her in the hospital bed. "What is it, Mom?" "She recorded something today, a voice message, on my phone. I gave it to Mr. Henderson, my lawyer. If something happens to me during this surgery..." "Mom, don't talk like that. Listen to me, Sarah. If something happens, I want you to know that I've made provisions. The bakery is going to you. I know David might not understand and Emma might feel left out, but you're the one who gets it. You're the one who can keep it alive."
I'm trying to do what's best for everyone. David's got his job, his house, his life figured out. Emma's got her college fund, and she's smart enough to make her own way. But the bakery? That's my life's work. I need to know it's going to someone who'll love it like I do. I held her hand in the dark. "You're going to be fine, Mom. We'll run the bakery together for years to come." But deep down, I think we both knew this might be goodbye. The surgery was scheduled for 7 a.m. David and Jennifer arrived early, along with Emma, who had driven up from college. We all sat in that waiting room for 8 hours. 8 hours of bad coffee, stale vending machine snacks, and the worst kind of silence. When Dr. Martinez finally came out, his face told us everything we needed to know before he even spoke. "We did everything we could," he said. "There were complications complications. Her heart couldn't handle the stress of the procedure. I'm so sorry. The next few days were a blur of funeral arrangements, casseroles from neighbors, and relatives I hadn't seen in years showing up to pay their respects. I was operating on autopilot, just trying to get through each hour. David took charge of most of the arrangements, which I was grateful for. I couldn't think straight. Every time I walked past the bakery, which was right downtown, just 3 blocks from Mom's house, I'd start crying all over again. Emma was handling it better than I expected. She'd always been the tough one, even as the youngest. She threw herself into organizing the memorial service, making sure everyone who wanted to speak got a chance. Mom would want this to be a celebration, she kept saying. She'd want people to remember the good times. The funeral was on a Tuesday. Half the town showed up. Mom had touched so many lives, through the bakery, through her volunteer work, through just being the kind of person who remembered everyone's birthday and asked about their kids. During the service, David gave a beautiful eulogy about Mom's strength and determination. Emma talked about her sense of humor and how she could make anyone feel welcome. When it was my turn, I almost couldn't get through it. My mom taught me that love isn't just a feeling. It's something you do every day. It's getting up at 4 a.m. to bake bread for people you might never meet. It's remembering that Mrs. Peterson likes her coffee cake extra sweet because she's been having a hard time since her husband died. I had to stop. I couldn't finish. After the service, we all went back to Mom's house, the same house where I'd grown up, where we'd had Christmas mornings and birthday parties and family dinners. It felt empty without her laugh filling the rooms. That's when David brought up the will. He said, "We need to talk about Mom's affairs." We were sitting in the living room, me, David, Jennifer, and Emma. He said, "I've been in touch with Mr. Henderson. He's going to read the will tomorrow." I remembered what Mom had told me about the bakery, about the voice recording, but I didn't say anything. I figured there'd be time to process all of that later. "She always said she wanted to be fair to all of us," Emma said. "She was," David replied. "I think we're all going to be okay." There was something in his tone that I should have picked up on, a certainty that didn't quite match the grief in his eyes. Mr. Henderson's office was in one of those old downtown buildings with creaky floors and windows that hadn't been updated since the 1970s. He'd been Mom's lawyer for over 15 years, handling everything from the bakery's incorporation to her divorce from Dad. He was a kind man in his 60s, with gentle eyes behind wire-rimmed glasses. I'd always liked him. He'd been at the funeral, and I could tell Mom's death had hit him hard too. "I want you all to know how sorry I am for your loss," he said, as we settled into the chairs around his desk. "Your mother was a remarkable woman."
He opened a manila folder and pulled out several documents. Now, Linda was very thorough in her estate planning. She updated her will several times over the years, most recently about 6 weeks ago. 6 weeks ago. That would have been right around the time of her surgery. "The house will be sold, and the proceeds will be split equally among the 3 of you. Same with her savings account and investment portfolio." So far, so good. That's what I'd expected. "As for the bakery," Mr. Henderson continued, "she's left it to David." I felt like I'd been punched in the stomach. What? "The bakery, along with all equipment, recipes, and business assets, goes to David Michael Patterson." I looked at David, expecting him to be as surprised as I was, but he wasn't. He was just sitting there, nodding slightly, like he'd already known. "There must be some mistake," I said. "Mom told me." "There's no mistake," Mr. Henderson said gently. "I have the will right here. It's been properly witnessed and notarized." "But she said—" I couldn't finish the sentence. I felt like I was going to throw up. Emma looked confused. "I thought Mom always said Sarah would take over the bakery someday." "Change plans," David said quietly. "Mom realized I was in a better position to handle the business side of things." "The business side?" I couldn't believe what I was hearing. "David, you work at a bank. You don't know anything about running a bakery." "I know about running a business. I know about cash flow and profit margins and employee management. That's what the bakery needs right now." Mr. Henderson was looking uncomfortable. "Perhaps we should take a break." "No," I said. "I want to see the will. I want to read it myself." He handed me the document. My hands were shaking as I read through it. Everything was there in black and white. The bakery, the recipes, even Mom's special mixing bowls. All of it was going to David. But something felt wrong. The language was too formal, too cold. It didn't sound like Mom at all. "Mr. Henderson, you mentioned she updated this 6 weeks ago. Do you remember what she changed?" He looked through his notes. "Yes, the original will from 2 years ago left the bakery to you, Sarah, but she came in about a week after her surgery and said she'd had a change of heart. A week after her surgery, when she was still heavily medicated and barely conscious. unconscious. Did she come in alone? No, David was with her. He said she was still weak from the procedure, so he helped her with the transportation. I looked at David again. He was avoiding my eyes. I think I need some air, I said, standing up abruptly. Sarah, wait, Emma said, but I was already walking out of the office. I stood on the sidewalk outside, trying to process what had just happened. My mom, who had spent her last conscious night telling me about her plans for the bakery, had somehow changed her mind a week later when she was barely able to speak? It didn't make sense. None of it made sense. That's when I remembered the voice recording she'd mentioned, the one she'd given to Mr. Henderson. I walked back into the office. Mr. Henderson, my mother mentioned a voice recording, something she made before her surgery. He looked confused. A voice recording? I don't have any voice recording. She said she gave it to you. She said it was important. Sarah, I'm sorry, but I don't know what you're talking about. But I could see in his eyes that he was telling the truth. He genuinely didn't know about any recording, which meant someone else did. I couldn't sleep that night. I kept thinking about everything Mom had said before her surgery, about how certain she was about leaving me the bakery. It just didn't add up. The next morning, I drove to Mom's house. David had given me a key, and I told him I wanted to go through some of her personal things. What I was really looking for was that voice recording. Mom's bedroom felt like a museum.
Everything was exactly as she'd left it. Her reading glasses on the nightstand, a half-finished crossword puzzle, the romance novel she'd been reading with a bookmark on page 127. I started with her phone. It was an iPhone, nothing fancy, but she'd learned to use it pretty well. I scrolled through her voice memos, her photos, her messages. There were dozens of voice memos, grocery lists, reminders about doctor appointments, notes to herself about new recipes she wanted to try. But there was nothing about the will or the bakery. I was about to give up when I found something interesting in her text messages. A conversation with David from the day before her surgery. David, Mom, are you sure about this? Sarah's gonna be upset. Mom, I've made my decision. The recording explains everything. Make sure Mr. Henderson gets it. David, I still think you should reconsider. The bakery means everything to her. Mom, that's exactly why I can't give it to her. She'll understand someday. I read the conversation 3 times. Mom was definitely planning to give David the bakery, but she'd also definitely made a recording explaining her decision. So where was it? I kept scrolling through the messages. There was nothing else about the will, but I found something else that made my blood run cold. A text from David to Mom, sent the day after her surgery, when she was still unconscious in the ICU. David, got your phone from the hospital, taking care of everything like we discussed. My hands were shaking as I screenshotted the message. David had taken Mom's phone from the hospital while she was unconscious. He'd had access to everything, her voice memos, her messages, her photos. I needed to know what he'd done with that recording. I decided to call Mr. Henderson directly. Mr. Henderson, it's Sarah Patterson. I have a question about the will reading yesterday. Of course, Sarah, what can I help you with? When exactly did my mother come in to change her will? He shuffled through papers. Let me see. It was February 15th, a Thursday. I grabbed my calendar. February 15th was exactly 1 week after Mom's surgery. She'd still been in the hospital then, on heavy pain medication, and barely able to stay awake for more than a few minutes at a time. Mr. Henderson, are you absolutely certain she was mentally competent to make legal decisions that day? There was a long pause. Sarah, I understand you're upset, but your mother seemed to know what she was doing. She was weak, yes, but she was coherent. Did she sign the will herself? Another pause. She was having difficulty writing due to the medication. David helped guide her hand. David helped guide her hand. My brother had literally guided my dying mother's hand to sign away my inheritance? Mr. Henderson, I need to ask you something, and I need you to be completely honest with me. Did my mother ever mention a voice recording to you? No, Sarah. I told you yesterday. I don't know anything about any recording. What if I told you I had evidence that she made one? The line went quiet for a long moment. Sarah, if you have evidence that your mother left additional instructions about her will, I would need to see it. But I want you to be very careful about making accusations. Will contests are serious legal matters. After I hung up, I sat in Mom's kitchen staring at the screenshots on my phone. I had proof that David had taken Mom's phone, and I had proof that she made a recording, but I didn't have the actual recording, unless... I remembered that Mom had recently started using iCloud to back up her phone. She'd been worried about losing her photos and had asked me to help her set it up about 6 months ago. I grabbed my laptop and logged into her iCloud account. I still had the password from when I'd helped her set it up. My heart was pounding as I navigated to the voice memos section. There were dozens of files, mostly
mostly recent. I started playing them one by one. Grocery lists, reminders about doctor appointments, a note to herself about Emma's birthday present. And then, there it was. A voice memo from the day before her surgery, time-stamped at 11:47 p.m., the same night she told me about the recording. I clicked play, and my mother's voice filled the room. If you're listening to this, it means I didn't make it through the surgery. I'm recording this on February 7th, the night before my operation, because I need to make sure my final wishes are known. I've been thinking a lot about what I want to happen to the bakery. I know I told David in my texts that I was leaving it to him, but I lied. I had to lie, because I suspected he might try to interfere with my real wishes. Sarah, honey, if you're hearing this, the bakery is yours. I changed my will 3 months ago to leave it to you, and I've asked Mr. Henderson to keep this recording as proof of my final intentions. I know David thinks he'd be better at running the business, and maybe he's right about the financial side, but the bakery isn't just a business. It's my heart, my soul, my legacy, and you're the only one who understands that. I've watched you these past few months, taking care of me, putting your whole life on hold. I've seen how you look at the bakery when we drive past it, how you talk about the recipes and the customers. You don't just see profit margins and cash flow. You see what I see, a place where people come together, where love is baked into every loaf of bread. David is a good man, but he's practical. He'd probably sell the bakery within a year and invest the money in something more profitable. Emma's too young and she's got her own dreams to chase. But you're ready. I'm giving you specific instructions in my real will, the one I filed with Mr. Henderson 2 weeks ago. David doesn't know about it. I told him I was leaving the bakery to him because I was afraid he might try to contest my decision or influence me to change my mind. There's something else I need to tell you. I've been keeping a secret for years. Your father didn't leave us because he was selfish or irresponsible, like I always told you kids. He left because I asked him to. I found out he'd been embezzling money from the bakery to pay off gambling debts. I gave him a choice: go to jail or leave town and never come back. I never told you kids because I didn't want you to think less of him, but I'm telling you now because I need you to understand something. The bakery has always been built on sacrifice. I sacrificed my marriage to protect it. I sacrificed so many things to keep it alive. I'm not asking you to sacrifice your life for it like I did. I'm asking you to make it better, to turn it into something that can support you and maybe even a family someday, to keep the heart of it alive while making it stronger. There's a safe deposit box at First National Bank, box number 247. The key is in my jewelry box, inside the little velvet pouch with my pearl earrings. Inside that box, you'll find the real will, some cash I've been saving, and the original recipes for everything we make at the bakery, including the ones I never shared with anyone. Sarah, honey, I need you to promise me something. If David tries to fight you on this, if he tries to claim the bakery, you play this recording. You make sure everyone knows what my real wishes were. I love you, baby girl. I love all my children equally, but I trust you with this. Don't let me down. And one more thing. There's a loose floorboard in the bakery's office, under the desk. I've been hiding cash there for years for emergencies. It's yours now. Use it to keep the bakery running while you figure things out. I'm sorry I couldn't be stronger. I'm sorry I couldn't beat this thing, but I'm not sorry about this decision. The bakery belongs with you. I sat there in Mom's kitchen, tears streaming down my face. She knew.
She'd known David would try to manipulate the situation, and she'd planned for it. But then a horrible thought occurred to me. If David had access to her phone, if he'd seen this recording, why hadn't he deleted it? I checked the metadata on the file. It had been accessed on February 16th, the day after the fake will was signed. David had definitely seen it. So why was it still there? I scrolled through the other voice memos, looking for anything else that might be relevant. That's when I found it. Another recording, made on February 16th, after Mom had died. David's voice. If you're listening to this, it means you found Mom's recording. I'm sorry you had to find out this way, but I need you to understand something. I didn't delete Mom's recording because I wanted you to hear it. I wanted you to know what she really wanted, but I also need you to understand why I couldn't let it happen. The bakery is failing, Sarah. It has been for years. Mom was too proud to tell you, but she was barely breaking even. She had over $50,000 in debt, and the equipment is falling apart. The building needs a new roof, the ovens need to be replaced,
replaced, and we're behind on property taxes. If you took over the bakery, you'd be inheriting a financial disaster. You'd lose everything trying to save it, and then you'd end up with nothing. I know I'm being greedy, Sarah, but I'm not. I'm trying to protect you. I'm going to sell the bakery and split the money between all three of us. You'll get enough to start over, to maybe open something smaller and more manageable. I'm sorry I had to lie to you and to Mr. Henderson. I'm sorry I had to forge Mom's signature, but I'm not sorry for trying to save you from bankruptcy. Delete this recording, Sarah. Pretend you never found it. Let me handle this mess so you don't have to. I stared at the phone in horror. My brother had just confessed to forgery and fraud. He'd manipulated our dying mother, lied to her lawyer, and stolen my inheritance. But more than that, he'd made a decision about my life without giving me a choice. I saved both reportings to my laptop, backed them up to 3 different cloud services, and emailed copies to myself. Then I called Mr. Henderson. Mr. Henderson, I found the recording. Can you meet me at your office in an hour? Sarah, I'm not sure I'm coming with evidence of fraud. David forged Mom's signature on that will. I have proof. There was a long pause. I'll be here. Mr. Henderson's face went pale as he listened to both recordings. When they finished, he sat back in his chair and rubbed his temples. This is very serious, Sarah. If what your mother says is true, if there's another will, the safe deposit box, I said. She said there's a real will in her safe deposit box at First National Bank. We need to go there right now, and we need to call David. No, not yet. I want to see what's in that box first. Mr. Henderson nodded. You're right, let's go. 20 minutes later, we were standing in the vault at First National Bank. I'd found the key exactly where Mom said it would be, hidden with her pearl earrings. Box 247 was small, but it was packed. There were bundles of cash, probably close to $10,000. There were the original recipe cards written in Mom's careful handwriting, and there it was, a will, dated January 15th, just 3 weeks before Mom's surgery. Mr. Henderson read through it carefully while I looked through the other contents of the box. Sarah, he said quietly, this is definitely legitimate. It's properly witnessed and notarized. According to this, you inherit the bakery, along with all business assets and intellectual property. It also establishes a trust fund for Emma's education and gives David a cash settlement of $25,000. So the will that David made her sign, it's invalid.
Even if she had been mentally competent to sign it, which is questionable, this will is more recent and supersedes any previous versions. I felt a mixture of relief and anger. Relief that Mom's real wishes would be honored, and anger at what David had tried to do. What happens now? Now, we need to confront David. This is fraud, Sarah. He could face criminal charges. That evening, I called a family meeting. David, Jennifer, and Emma all came to Mom's house. They were expecting to discuss funeral expenses and cleaning out the house. They had no idea what was coming. I'd set up my laptop on the kitchen table with the recordings ready to play. Before we start, I said, there's something you all need to hear. I played Mom's recording first. Emma gasped when she heard Mom's voice. David's face went white, but he didn't say anything. When it ended, Emma was crying. I can't believe she knew about Dad, she said. All these years, I thought he just abandoned us. There's more, I said, and played David's recording. The silence that followed was deafening. Jennifer was the first to speak. David, what did you do? I was trying to protect Sarah. You don't understand. The bakery is drowning in debt. She would have lost everything. That wasn't your decision to make, Emma said. Her voice was cold, angrier than I'd ever heard her. You stole from her. I didn't steal anything. I was trying to save her from financial ruin. By forging Mom's signature? By taking her phone while she was unconscious? By lying to her lawyer? David slumped in his chair. You don't understand what it's like being the oldest. Everything falls on me. All the responsibility, all the hard decisions. I've been taking care of this family since Dad left. By lying to us? Emma stood up. By manipulating Mom when she was dying? Mom was scared. She was scared of leaving you kids with problems. She talked to me about the bakery's finances right after her diagnosis. She knew it was in trouble. Then why didn't she tell me? I asked. Because she knew you'd try to save it anyway. She knew you'd throw your life away trying to fix something that can't be fixed. I looked at my brother, really looked at him. His face was drawn, his eyes were red, and I realized he genuinely thought he'd been doing the right thing. David, I said quietly, the bakery might be in trouble, but that should have been my choice to make. You took away my right to decide what to do with my own life. I was trying to protect you.
you? By lying to me? By stealing from me? By forging legal documents? I shook my head. You need to turn yourself in. Sarah, no, Jennifer said. Think about what you're doing. He's your brother. He made a mistake, but he was trying to help. He committed fraud, Jennifer. He manipulated a dying woman and forged her signature on legal documents. That's not a mistake. That's a crime. Emma was still crying, but her voice was steady. He's right, though, isn't he? About the bakery being in trouble? I pulled out the papers from the safe deposit docs. I don't know, but I found this. It was a business plan, written in Mom's handwriting, pages and pages of ideas for modernizing the bakery, expanding the catering business, maybe even franchising the concept. She'd been working on it for months. She wasn't just planning to give me a failing business. She was planning to give me a roadmap for saving it. David looked at the papers, then at me. Sarah, I'm sorry. I thought I was doing the right thing. I know you did, but you weren't. What happens now? I looked around the room at my family. Emma, still in college, trying to process the revelation about our father. Jennifer, caught between loyalty to her husband and knowing he'd done something wrong. David, who'd convinced himself that lying and fraud were acts of love. Now, we fix this, I said.
You are going to call Mr. Henderson and confess. You're going to return any money you've already taken from Mom's accounts, and you're going to help me figure out how to save the bakery. And if I don't, then I'll press charges, and you'll go to jail, and the bakery will still be mine. David was quiet for a long moment. Then he nodded. Okay, I'll call Henderson in the morning. But as I looked at him, I realized our relationship would never be the same. He'd broken something between us that couldn't be repaired. Trust, once lost, is almost impossible to rebuild. The next morning, David called Mr. Henderson and confessed everything. By noon, we were all back in the lawyer's office, signing papers to transfer the bakery to me officially. Mr. Henderson had spent the morning reviewing the bakery's financial records, and the news wasn't good. David was right about the financial situation, he said. The bakery owes $47,000 in various debts: loan equipment, supplier payments, back taxes. The building needs significant repairs, and cash flow has been negative for the past 8 months. I felt sick. Maybe David was right. Maybe I was inheriting a disaster. However, Mr. Henderson continued, the business does have assets. The property is worth about $180,000, and there's goodwill value in the brand and customer base. If you can turn around the operations, it's salvageable. How long do I have? The bank has agreed to hold off on foreclosure proceedings for 90 days. After that, he shrugged. 90 days to save a 20-year-old business? It seemed impossible. That afternoon, I went to the bakery alone. I hadn't been inside since before Mom's surgery. David had kept it running with a skeleton crew, but barely. The bell above the door chimed as I walked in, just like it had thousands of times when I was a kid. The smell hit me immediately. Yeast and flour and sugar, the scent of my childhood. Mrs. Peterson was behind the counter. She'd been Mom's assistant manager for 15 years. Sarah, honey, she said, coming around to hug me. I'm so sorry about your mother. Thank you, Mrs. Peterson. I'm going to be taking over the bakery. She smiled for the first time since I'd walked in. Linda always said you would. She'd be so proud. I'm not sure I can do it. David says we're in serious financial trouble. Mrs. Peterson's expression hardened. That boy doesn't know what he's talking about. Yes, we've been struggling, but your mother had plans. She was working on something big before she got sick. What kind of plans? Come on, let me show you. She led me to the back office, where Mom had spent countless hours working on schedules and orders and payroll. The desk was covered with papers, invoices, receipts, supplier catalogs, but underneath all of that, I found what Mrs. Peterson was talking about. Mom had been in negotiations with 3 different grocery chains to supply them with fresh bread and pastries. She'd been working on a contract that would have guaranteed $8,000 in monthly revenue. She was going to sign this the week after her surgery, Mrs. Peterson said. She was so excited about it. I looked at the contract. It was basically ready to go. Just needed a signature and some minor details worked out. Why didn't David know about this? Because your mother didn't trust him with the business side. She said he thought too much like a banker and not enough like a baker. Over the next few hours, Mrs. Peterson showed me everything Mom had been working on. The grocery contracts, a plan to expand the catering business, ideas for a coffee shop addition, even preliminary sketches for a second location. She wasn't planning to give you a failing business. She was planning to give you a business that was about to take off. That evening, I called Emma and asked her to come home for the weekend. I needed all the help I could get.
I can't believe David almost destroyed
this," she said as I showed her mom's business plans. "This is incredible. She really thought of everything. The question is, can I pull it off?" Emma looked at me seriously. "Sarah, you've been helping Mom with this place since you were 10 years old. You know every recipe, every customer, every supplier. If anyone can do this, it's you. I don't know anything about running a business. You don't need to know everything on day one," Emma said. "You just need to know enough to get started." She was right. I'd been so focused on all the things I didn't know that I'd forgotten about everything I did know. I knew that Mrs. Johnson always ordered 24 chocolate chip cookies for her book club meetings. I knew that the Parker family had been buying their birthday cakes from us for 12 years. I knew that our sourdough bread was better than anything you could buy at the grocery store. Most importantly, I knew that Mom had believed in me enough to plan for this moment. The next morning, I called the grocery chain that Mom had been negotiating with. The buyer, a woman named Carol Stevens, remembered Mom fondly. "I was so sorry to hear about Linda's passing," she said. "She was one of the most professional suppliers I've ever worked with. I'm calling about the contract she was working on. I'm taking over the bakery." "Oh, wonderful. Linda always said you'd be perfect for the business. Are you ready to move forward?" Within an hour, I had a signed contract guaranteeing $8,000 a month in revenue for the next 2 years. Just like that, half of our financial problems were solved. But I knew the real challenge was just beginning. The next 90 days were the hardest of my life. I was working 18-hour days, learning everything from inventory management to employee scheduling to health department regulations. Emma took a semester off from college to help me. She turned out to have a natural talent for marketing and social media, something Mom had never really embraced. Within a month, she doubled our Instagram followers and was bringing in new customers every week. "Look at this," she said one evening, showing me her phone. "Mrs. Chen posted a photo of her daughter's graduation cake and it got 200 likes. People are sharing our stuff all over town." Even David started helping, though things were still tense between us. He'd avoided criminal charges after making full restitution, but the trust was gone. Still, he knew numbers better than anyone, and he helped me restructure our debt payments and negotiate with suppliers. "You're doing something I never could," he admitted one day. "You're keeping the heart of this place alive while making it profitable." That's what Mom wanted. She wanted it to be successful without losing what made it special. The grocery store contracts were just the beginning. Once we had steady revenue coming in, I was able to invest in some equipment repairs and hire back 2 of the employees we'd had to let go. But the real breakthrough came when I found something unexpected in Mom's recipe files. I was going through her personal collection, the ones she'd never shared with anyone, when I found a folder labeled Special Projects. Inside were recipes for gluten-free bread, vegan pastries, and diabetic-friendly desserts. She was working on this for months, Mrs. Peterson told me. She knew the market was changing, that people wanted more options. She just never had time to test them properly. I spent every evening for 3 weeks perfecting those recipes. The gluten-free bread was tricky. It took dozens of attempts to get the texture right, but when I finally nailed it, I knew I had something special. We launched the Healthy Options menu on a Thursday morning. By Friday afternoon, we were sold out of everything. "I haven't been able to eat bread in 5 years," one customer told me, tears in her eyes. "This is the first time I've tasted something that reminds me of my grandmother's baking." Within a month, the Healthy Options were bringing in an extra $3,000 a week. We were not only breaking even, we were actually turning a profit. But the biggest surprise came when I was cleaning out the storage room and found something I'd completely forgotten about: Mom's wedding dress. She'd kept it all these years, wrapped in tissue paper and stored in a cedar chest. There was a note attached: "For Sarah, when you're ready." I held the dress up to myself in the mirror. It was beautiful, simple but elegant, with delicate lace details. I'd never really thought about getting married, but holding Mom's dress made me realize how much she'd hoped for my future. That's when I decided to add one more service to the bakery: wedding cakes. Mom had always done a few wedding cakes each year, but she'd never really marketed the service. I reached out to every wedding planner in the county, offering free tastings and custom designs. The response was overwhelming. Within 6 months, we were booked solid with wedding orders. The profit margins were incredible. A wedding cake that cost $40 to make could sell for $300. By the 1-year anniversary of Mom's death, the bakery was not only stable, it was thriving. We'd paid off all our debts, hired 4 new employees, and were looking at opening a second location. But more importantly,
importantly, we were still the same place Mom had created. We still remembered customers' names, still made everything from scratch, still treated the bakery like a community gathering place rather than just a business. I was working late one evening, preparing for a big catering order, when I heard the bell above the door chime. I looked up to see a man I didn't recognize. Tall, dark-haired, wearing a suit that suggested he wasn't from around here. "I'm sorry, we're closed," I said. "Are you Sarah Patterson?" he asked. "Yes. Who's asking?" He smiled. "My name's Michael Chen. I'm a food industry consultant. I've been hearing some interesting things about what you've done with this place." "What kind of things?" "The kind of things that make investors very interested." My heart started pounding. "What do you mean?" "I represent a group of investors who specialize in scaling successful food businesses. We're interested in helping you franchise your concept." I stared at him. "Franchise? You want to turn my mom's bakery into a chain? We want to help you share your mother's vision with the world. Think about it. Linda's Bakery locations in every major city, bringing that small-town artisanal experience to people everywhere. It was everything Mom had dreamed about in her business plan, but it was also terrifying. "I need to think about this," I said. "Of course. Here's my card. But Sarah, opportunities like this don't come along often. Your mother built something special here, and you've made it even better. Don't let fear keep you from taking it to the next level." After he left, I sat in the empty bakery thinking about everything that had happened. A year ago, I was a marketing coordinator in Chicago with no real direction in life. Now I was a successful business owner with an opportunity to build something bigger than I'd ever imagined. I pulled out my phone and played Mom's recording one more time. "Don't let me down," her voice said. I smiled. "I won't, Mom, I promise." 6 months later, I was standing in the first Linda's Bakery franchise location in Indianapolis, watching the grand opening. The line stretched around the block. Michael Chen and his investors had been true to their word. They'd helped me develop a franchise system that maintained the quality and community feel of the original, while making it scalable. Each location would be required to use Mom's recipes, hire locally, and maintain the same level of customer service.
Emma had become my business partner, handling all the marketing and social media for the growing chain. She dropped out of college officially, but she was learning more about business than any classroom could have taught her. "Mom would be so proud," she said, watching customers stream through the doors. "I think she knew this would happen," I said. "That business plan of hers, it was like she could see the future." David had come to the opening too, along with Jennifer and their kids. Things were still complicated between us, but we were slowly rebuilding our relationship. "I owe you an apology," he said, as we watched the crowd. "I almost destroyed something incredible because I was too afraid to believe in it." "You were trying to protect me," I said. "I understand that now." "I was trying to protect myself," he said. "I was afraid that if you failed, I'd have to live with the guilt of not stopping you. But I was wrong. You are never going to fail. You're just like Mom, too stubborn to give up on something you believe in." As the day went on, I found myself thinking about everything that had led to this moment. Mom's death, the stolen will, the financial crisis, the long days and sleepless nights rebuilding the business. None of it had been easy, but all of it had been necessary. Around closing time, I was cleaning up when I noticed an elderly woman sitting alone at one of the corner tables. She looked familiar, but I couldn't place her. "Excuse me," I said, walking over. "Are you enjoying everything?" She looked up at me with tears in her eyes. "You're Sarah, aren't you? Linda's daughter." "Yes. Do we know each other?" "I'm Margaret Henderson, Harold's wife, your mother's lawyer's wife." I sat down across from her. "Oh, Mrs. Henderson, I'm so sorry. I didn't recognize you. I wanted to come today because I have something to tell you, something Harold never told you about your mother." My heart started racing. "What is it?" "About a month before she died, Linda came to see Harold. Not about business, just to talk. She told him she was worried about you kids, about how you'd handle things after she was gone." Margaret paused, looking around the busy bakery. "She said she wasn't worried about David. He was strong and practical and would land on his feet. She wasn't worried about Emma. She was smart and adaptable and would figure things out. But she was worried about you." "About me? Why?" "Because you were the one who felt things most deeply. You were the one who would take her death the hardest. She was afraid you'd give up on your dreams, that you'd let grief paralyze you." I felt tears starting to form in my eyes. But then she said something that Harold never forgot. She said, "But if Sarah can get through this, if she can find a way to turn her grief
grief into something positive, she'll be unstoppable. She'll do things I never dreamed of. Margaret reached across the table and took my hand. Look around you, dear. Look at what you've built. This isn't just a business, it's a legacy. You didn't just save your mother's bakery, you turned it into something that will touch thousands of lives. That night, after everyone had gone home, I sat alone in the original bakery back in Cedar Rapids. I'd kept it exactly as Mom had left it, down to the mismatched chairs and the handwritten menu board. I pulled out my phone and recorded a voice memo of my own. Hi, Mom. It's me. I know you can't hear this, but I needed to tell you something. I kept my promise. I didn't let you down. The bakery is thriving. We have 12 locations now, with more opening next year. Emma's engaged to a great guy she met at a business conference. David and I are okay. It took time, but we're family again. But more than that, I think I finally understand what you were trying to teach me. It's not about the money or the success or even the business itself.
It's about creating something that brings people together, something that makes their day a little brighter, something that lasts. I found your original business plan yesterday, the one you wrote 20 years ago when you first opened. You wanted to create a place where people felt like family, where food was made with love, where community mattered more than profit. You did that, Mom, and now I'm doing it too, just on a bigger scale. I love you. I miss you every day, but I'm not sad anymore. I'm grateful. Grateful that you believed in me enough to fight for this, even when you knew David would try to stop you. Grateful that you left me more than just a business. You left me a purpose. I won't let you down. I promise. I saved the recording and put my phone away. Then I turned off the lights and locked the door, knowing that tomorrow would bring new challenges, new opportunities, and new ways to honor Mom's legacy. As I walked to my car, I looked back at the bakery one more time. The sign in the window read, Linda's Bakery, where every day is made with love. And for the first time since Mom died, I felt like everything was exactly as it should be.
So that's my story. The story of how my family tried to steal my inheritance and how I fought back with the one thing they couldn't take away, the truth. It's been 3 years now since Mom passed away. We have 47 franchise locations across the Midwest, and we're planning to expand nationally next year. Emma is getting married next month, and yes, we're making her wedding cake. And David and I are actually business partners now. He handles the financial side of the franchise operations, and he's really good at it. But the most important thing is that Mom's vision lives on. Every day, in dozens of cities, people are walking into Linda's Bakery locations and experiencing what she created. That sense of community, that feeling of being cared for, that knowledge that someone put love into what they made for you. Sometimes I wonder what would have happened if I just accepted David's version of events. If I'd never found that voice recording, never discovered Mom's real will, never fought for what was rightfully mine. I probably would have taken the money from selling the bakery and started over somewhere else. Maybe opened a small cafe, maybe gone back to marketing. I would have been fine, but I never would have known what I was capable of. I never would have honored Mom's real legacy. I never would have turned grief into something beautiful. The lesson here isn't just about fighting for your inheritance. It's about fighting for the truth, even when it's hard. It's about honoring the people who believed in you, even after they're gone. And it's about understanding that sometimes the thing you're most afraid of losing is exactly the thing you need to fight hardest to keep. If you're going through something similar, if someone is trying to take something from you that rightfully belongs to you, don't give up. Get evidence, ask questions, trust your instincts, and remember that the truth has a way of coming out, even when people try to bury it. If this story resonated with you, please hit that like button and share it with someone who needs to hear it. And if you have a story of your own about family betrayal or fighting for what's right, I'd love to hear it in the comments. Subscribe for more real stories about family drama, business success, and the complicated ways we honor the people we love. Because sometimes the most powerful thing you can do is simply refuse to let the truth be buried. Thanks for listening, and remember, your legacy is what you make it.